Hello, I am going to be dealing with a distasteful story about a nasty little man. So I know I'm going to get quite exercised about it, and I might forget to tell you who I am, so I'll start off by doing that. I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter and Gab. That's where I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. But if you are watching this on YouTube and push the subscribe button and then the notification bell, YouTube will tell you. Right, what else is that? Yeah, all the links are in the description, including links to donation sites. I'm always very grateful for donations, but you can really help my channel without costing yourself anything by just clicking that like button, which apparently enables the distribution of the video. So please like the video, please share it, please subscribe. Remember the advice I gave you before, whatever platform you're on. And yeah, I think that's about it. Right, so let's get on with talking about Russell Brand. Now, this is probably a bit previous. He's been rumbled for being a nasty little man. Now, years ago, I was pretty sure he was indeed a nasty little man. And I didn't want, you know how sometimes you feel a physical revulsion to somebody? Well, I felt that about this guy. The other guy, strangely enough, is John Wayne. I can't bear any films with him in it. I felt like I just didn't want to have anything to do with him. And it did interest me that later, sometime after I realised I had this distaste for the fellow, I also found out that he was a draft dodger during the war. He said he had some sort of impediment, but basically, he was a draft dodger. I'm sorry, all those John Wayne fans. He was a fraud. And somehow I caught that thing that he was a fraud, and I just found a distaste towards him. And perhaps same thing with Russell Brand. He's not a fraud, though. He was quite clear about his attitude to women. I once saw him in some sort of an interview. It was a long time ago, and there were, as far as I remember, I don't have very clear memories of it, but I do remember that there was a group of women sitting in a sort of circle, and he was there, and I think they were all interviewing him, or they were talking about some show he was doing, and he kept getting up and changing chairs, well, thus forcing them to move their position in order to talk to him. And he kept on doing that, or he kept on standing up and moving around. I don't remember, but of course, he wasn't observing the rules of an interview. But what he was really doing was exercising power over these other women in the interview, and they were all trying to be terribly polite. There's another offensive situation where apparently in some show or a panel show or whatever, he actually took an empty water bottle and relieved himself into it. And I believe that there were many, well, of course, there were many adults there, and there was also one underage child of some sort. And again, I have an idea he was showing dominance over the women there in the show. And that's why when I see this, he was known for, well, pushing himself at women, and I'm not too sure it actually amounted to that nasty word, which I shall say and bleep out, and that's rape, although it does say so here. But, you know, you get newspapers monsterising people. For instance, there's this one, Brand accused of rape and sex abuse. And then it says, comedian denies allegations from the women, one of whom claims she was 16. Now, 16 is over the age of consent, but they've managed to make it sound like he was going for an underage kid. I mean, he was going for someone very young and naive, but that's not the same. So you have to be careful. A little as I like this person, distaste, as much distaste as I feel for him, I don't like this sort of headline because it's not accurate and it's not right. What else is not right about it is the grammar. So I'm going to take a digression into grammar just for a couple of minutes, because I'm a grammar Nazi. I admit it, and I can't stand something like this. Right. And this is the Telegraph. Shame on them. The rule is as follows. You can't remember the rules about nominative and accusative and all the rest of it. It's a very simple rule. When you can say him, you say whom. That's all you have to remember. When you say he, you say who. For instance, it's here, it should be, one of who claims she was 16, because she claims she was 16. That's all. So you wouldn't say one of him claims he was 16, would you? Just remember that. If you can say him, you can say whom. Right. Otherwise, it's who. Right. Let's get back to the thing. Russell Brand has been accused of a rape, sexual assault and emotional abuse spanning 7 years during the height of his fame. Now, as for emotional abuse, I can believe that 100%. As for this one here, I suspect it's more that he was pressuring women into that. And after they'd given way to the pressure, they just felt like they'd been raped. And there's a very fine line there. But yes, this is not a man with any sorts of morals. And one of the worst, most egregious examples of that would be, of course, the famous Saks Gate incident. Now, what happened here? And this was with the collusion of whatever radio station they were working for at the time. I'm assuming it's, BBC Radio 2. This is the joke. Radio 2 is supposed to be the middle of the road, non-controversial radio station. And this is what happened. Apparently, Brand was going to conduct an interview with Andrew Sachs. Andrew Sachs being the actor who had played Manuel in Fawlty Towers. But he's so much more of an actor. He directed productions. He acted in serious plays. I mean, he wasn't just some knockabout comedian, a very respected actor in his profession. And he was, well, in his late 70s here. He might have forgotten about the interview, and Russell Brand was obviously very annoyed that Andrew Sachs hadn't built his whole life around this interview. And Ross is just as despicable, by the way, but we're not talking about him right now. So Russell Brand got Andrew Sachs's answer phone and said, "Hello, Andrew Sachs, this is Russell Brand. You are meant to be on my show now, mate. You don't call Andrew Sachs mate." Not a respected actor like him. Not when you're not a big friend of his, just ringing in for an interview. And that is in itself denigrating. And I am here with Jonathan Ross. I could still do the interview on your answer phone. So not having got an answer from Sachs, he then determined to do his best to embarrass this old man. Simply, it's obvious, because he was annoyed with him. It had knocked his ego. It had knocked Brand's ego a bit. Okay, first of all, Ross refers to Sachs as Manuel, which is rude, but as I said, I'm concentrating on Brand right now. And Brand says, "I said Andrew Sachs. Look, Andrew Sachs, I've got respect for you and your lineage and your progeny. Never let that be questioned." Now, why should he mention lineage and progeny? Well, Ross brings that up. Don't hint. And Brand says, "I weren't hinting." Yeah, who, me? Why did that come across as a hint? Of course it was a hint. "Because you know what you did," says Ross. "That wasn't a hint," says Brand. And then Ross shouts into the phone, "He fucked your granddaughter." Now, that was Ross's fault, but Brand doesn't, well, pull back on that. Because a bit later on, right, you wait till I come on your show. Andrew Sachs, I did not do nothing with Georgina. Oh no, I revealed I know her name. Oh no, it's a disaster. Abort, abort, put the phone down. But he didn't. Then he says, I'm sorry, Mr. Faulty, I'm sorry. You're a waste of space. Oh no, Jonathan. So he was getting at Sachs for his clownish portrayal of Manuel, and he was announcing that he'd had a sexual relationship with Sachs's granddaughter, and then he was saying, oh no, we can't say that, which is even more offensive. I'm not going to do any more of this. Okay, Ross was an arse, Brand was a stinker, but it wasn't even broadcast live. BBC 2, Radio 2, broadcast it later after the producer or whoever decided, oh yeah, that's comedy gold, that is. So you can see in that episode how Ross and Brand are two nasty people, but they are getting validation from the radio station, from the media. And so when we see a headline like this, where is it? Media bosses face questions over open secret of Russell Brand's behaviour, we know that there are questions there they cannot answer. At one point, when Brand was invited to a show, all the female staff were told to take time off because they knew how he would act towards them. TV bosses are under pressure to explain what they knew of Russell Brand's alleged behaviour following claims that his alleged sexual misconduct was an open secret. And even if he didn't do what they are accusing him of, he certainly did things which were objectionable, rude, thoughtless, and aggressive, especially towards women. And he should never have been allowed on the airwaves in any way. Interesting, especially towards women and to old men. In other words, weaker people. There's a theme there, isn't there? Right, well, I am not going to go on any further. It's just starting to make me feel a little queasy, actually. But I did want to talk about this because it's all over the news now. And the news is sort of saying, all the news media are saying, oh, we didn't know, we didn't understand. Of course they bloody did. When I was working for the BBC, there were all sorts of people talking about different people, you know, with that sort of knowing, sophisticated air. Well, we know he's a stinker, but, you know, I mean, he's making money. Well, they didn't say it that way, but that's what they meant. It's riddled with that sort of thing in the media. One of the reasons I was out of there. Okay, well, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.